Imagine this: Canada waking up to whispers of a deal so big, so secretive, that even senior officials are claiming they were kept out of the loop. A deal that could reshape how energy flows across our borders, and possibly who controls it. Now, before I get into what's really happening, let me set the scene. Prime Minister Mark Carney has been overseas for days, on what's officially described as a strategic Asia visit. But while he's been away, something unusual has been unfolding back home. Energy analysts, former diplomats, and a handful of government insiders are all hinting at the same thing: that a quiet, behind-the-scenes effort is underway involving the United States and Canada's energy grid. And here's where things start getting strange. Documents began circulating, not leaked officially, not confirmed publicly, but reportedly showing meetings between senior U.S. trade envoys and Canadian bureaucrats connected to energy infrastructure and export control. The meetings, apparently, weren't part of any known bilateral agenda. No joint statement, no media coverage, nothing, just silence. So what's the big deal? Well, according to several sources close to the matter, the discussions weren't about tariffs or oil exports. They were about control. Specifically, control over Canada's future energy supply lines, pipelines, electricity exports, and digital grid systems. Let that sink in for a second. Because if that's true, and again, none of this is officially confirmed, it would mean the United States is exploring ways to integrate, or even influence, Canada's energy network in ways we've never seen before. Not as partners, but as managers. Now, here's where Carney enters the picture. While most of Ottawa was quiet this week, Carney's office issued a brief, almost cryptic statement during his Asia tour. It didn't mention the United States by name, but it did contain a very pointed line: Canada's energy sovereignty is not negotiable. That one sentence set off a storm in the capital. What did he mean by not negotiable? Who was trying to negotiate it? And more importantly, was that a direct response to something happening behind the scenes? Sources close to Parliament Hill claim the tension began earlier this month. U.S. officials, reportedly under pressure to stabilize their domestic energy prices ahead of the winter, reached out to Canadian agencies with proposals to synchronize production targets and export schedules. But critics say that's just diplomatic code for one thing: control. If Washington could influence how and when Canadian oil, gas, and hydro resources are distributed, it could effectively steer Canada's economic direction. And that's not something Carney, or any Canadian leader, can take lightly. But there's another layer to all this. Remember the North American Energy Resilience Agreement that was being discussed months ago? It was pitched as a way to protect power grids and ensure stability after recent infrastructure attacks. Well, now people are starting to question whether that agreement was actually the first step in something much bigger: a quiet transition of authority over key energy assets to multinational committees, some reportedly based in the U.S. If that's true, then what we're seeing isn't just diplomacy. It's a slow, strategic handover. Carney's reaction, according to insiders, has been measured but firm. In private meetings before his departure, he reportedly warned advisors that Canada's energy sector must remain in Canadian hands. Yet, curiously, several senior energy executives, many of them with deep ties to U.S. investors, have been seen flying in and out of Ottawa over the past week. No statements, no press releases, just meetings. Now, the big question everyone's asking tonight is, what exactly did Carney discover before he left? Because his tone changed dramatically right before the trip. Gone was the usual diplomatic calm, replaced by urgency, even frustration. Some say that's when he learned about the depth of U.S. involvement. Others believe he's using this Asia trip to rally international support and counterbalance American pressure. Either way, one thing's clear: the timing isn't random. The United States is in the middle of a major domestic energy push, trying to reindustrialize and reduce dependence on foreign suppliers. But Canada's resources, especially Alberta's oil and Saskatchewan's uranium, play a critical role in that equation. Washington knows it. Ottawa knows it. And apparently, Carney's office isn't happy about the direction things are going. There's also a digital dimension to this. Several cybersecurity briefings from earlier this month warned that Canada's smart grid systems, those that control power distribution and energy flow, are vulnerable to foreign access. While the reports didn't specify which countries, some analysts have since hinted that foreign access might not necessarily mean hostile nations. It could just as easily refer to partners with extended oversight capabilities. Think about that. Your home's power, your province's supply chain, even our national reserves, all potentially influenced by foreign data systems. Now, I'm not saying this is confirmed fact, but when you put the puzzle pieces together, the unannounced U.S. meetings, Carney's sudden statement, and the whispers about digital control, it paints a picture that's hard to ignore. Midweek, an anonymous memo surfaced on Parliament Hill claiming that a draft energy cooperation framework had been sent to Ottawa from Washington for immediate evaluation. The memo suggested that the framework included clauses about emergency coordination, shared resource management, and infrastructure standardization. Innocent enough on the surface, but when you dig deeper, those terms could allow one country to override the other during a declared energy emergency. That's where the alarm bells started ringing. If such a framework were ever signed, again, no one's confirming that it even exists, it could give the U.S. partial authority to influence how Canada allocates its own energy in times of crisis. That's not partnership, that's dependency. And it seems Carney, even from thousands of miles away, wasn't about to let that narrative go unchallenged. During a speech in Singapore, he referenced nations that attempt to exert undue control over their allies through strategic resources, adding, Canada will not be swayed by pressure, whether financial or political. It was subtle, but the message was unmistakable. Now, back in Canada, opposition leaders are demanding clarity. They're calling on Carney's office to release details of any discussions with the U.S. about energy coordination. So far, nothing has been disclosed. No denials, no confirmations, just silence. And maybe that silence is the loudest part of this entire story. Because if what insiders are suggesting is even partially true, if a secret plan exists to centralize control of North American energy under one umbrella, then Canada could be standing at a crossroads. One path preserves independence. The other risks becoming an extension of America's domestic energy grid. For now, Carney remains abroad. His schedule shows another closed-door meeting with Asian energy ministers tomorrow, an unusual focus for what was supposed to be a trade mission. But observers believe he's building alliances quietly, preparing for whatever showdown might be waiting when he returns home. And that's where this all gets really interesting. Because if Carney comes back to Ottawa and decides to speak openly about what's been going on behind the scenes, it could set off one of the biggest political and economic debates this country has seen in decades. For now, Canadians are left wondering, who really controls our energy future? Is it Ottawa, the provinces, or is someone else quietly pulling the strings from across the border? Whatever the truth is, it's clear something is moving beneath the surface. And when Carney finally lands back in Canada, all eyes and cameras will be waiting to see what he says next. Because this time, silence might not be an option.